Well, quite a lot on the political week ahead. We have former President Jacob Zuma, who might be heading back to jail, while Chris Hani's killer, Janusz Walus, will walk free. Our politics editor, Lukhanyo Calata, is standing by with those details. Lukhanyo?
Kathy, thank you so much. You're right. It's been a rather eventful start to this week in politics. So just a short while ago, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo ordered the Correctional Services Department to release Janusz Walus, the man who killed Chris Hani, on parole. Now, Walus took his bid for freedom to the Constitutional Court, where he argued that the Justice Minister's refusal to grant him parole was irrational. Now, earlier today, the court agreed. Meanwhile, the South African Communist Party has expressed its shock and disappointment with that decision.
But we are terribly shattered by this judgment. We think it has been inconsistent with many issues that were referred at this level. We should not have reached this level. There's been a lot of falsifications that have reached this level. Whether it's the issue about victim-offender dialogue, which has not been properly done, and we have demonstrated this how Janusz Walus' legal team tried to falsify this process, and all of that have not been considered. But we thought the Court of Appeal had initially considered these factors.
Now, Justice Department spokesperson Crispin Peary says they will study the judgment before deciding on a way forward.
Well, the court has applied the Trencon judgment in applying its analysis as to why it's made that decision. We will study the judgment and read it carefully and see if we are of the same view as well. But like the court did apply its rationale, it's not for us to necessarily second guess the second highest court or the highest court in the land in that regard. But like I've said, they highlighted the rationale for it. They highlighted the legal principles behind that decision. We will carefully consider those legal principles because we are obliged to. And we will then do what is necessary in that regard.
Now, stay tuned to Newzroom Afrika for more on that developing story. Let's now move to this. While one prisoner is counting the days until his release, former President Jacob Zuma might have to go back to jail. Now, earlier today, the Supreme Court of Appeal dismissed Zuma's appeal to the court to reverse his medical parole. The court found that the decision to release him was both unlawful and invalid. Now, the Constitutional Court sentenced Zuma to 15 months behind bars for defying its order for him to appear before the state capture inquiry. But former prison's boss, Arthur Fraser, freed the former president just 2 months into his sentence on grounds of medical parole. Now, the Democratic Alliance and the Helen Suzman Foundation responded to that decision by launching an urgent application to have the parole decision set aside, which the SCA has now confirmed. Now, the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, says today's ruling upholds equality before the law.
We certainly are delighted with the outcome today, which confirms the findings of the North Gauteng High Court, that this was an illegal and invalid decision made by Arthur Fraser, very clearly using that position to benefit the former president. I think that equality before the law, respect for the rule of law, and respecting the judicial outcomes have all been upheld today. And I think that as South Africans, we should all take great succour in the fact that this is now the case.
Meanwhile, AfriForum says it's planning to petition the Correctional Services Commissioner to ensure former President Jacob Zuma finishes the remainder of his prison sentence behind bars.
We feel that this is a step in the right direction. The High Court in Pretoria made the ruling that the time served on medical parole could not be deducted from the sentence. Today, the Supreme Court of Appeal said that Zuma had to report to the escort prison again, but that it could not make a ruling with regard to the deduction of the sentence, and that this is now in the hands of the National Commissioner of Correctional Services. And I have to say as well that AfriForum, we are going to be petitioning to the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, making a legal petition to make sure that the correct steps are taken in this regard.
Well, as if today was not enough, the ANC's Electoral Committee will on Tuesday announce the names of the candidates successfully nominated for the top 6 positions in the party. Now, former President Kgalema Motlanthe will give those names at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Motlanthe will then join our very own Kathy Motlatlana in the studio at 7 o'clock tomorrow night for an in-depth interview. Be sure not to miss that right here on your favorite news channel. And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa will kick off his official state visit to the UK on Tuesday with a meet and greet with the Prince and Princess of Wales before a busy day that will involve the pomp and ceremony of Horse Guards Parade, a visit to Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, as well as a state banquet.